Okay, so I've been thinking a little bit about how the woman is supposed to be the internalness of the man, and then the child is then also another internalness of the man. And I've been thinking about this. I think that's problematic. I've been thinking about how a lot of these ultimate frames of um, these very ultimate occult religious frames, or maybe like, I don't know, there's something wrong with it. For one, that the woman should be the internalness of the man. It's maybe not so much that, but if the woman is staying home, especially, and the man is repressing a lot of things, then a lot of times, yeah, that can manifest through the woman. And the woman is repressing her own desires, which can manifest in the children, or through neuroticism. So, I'm starting to think that maybe it's not. If the family is completely healthy, okay, certainly they're still connected energetically, but are they really? Maybe they're. I think what it is we absorb dimensions of each other. So I'm really strange. So other people, like if I'm in a group, I will be the strangest person, and now I am that dimension of the group. And so each individual has dimensions, but in a group, they are a dimension. I think it's more like that. So this is a bit of a critique of, a lot of systems, really. Christianity, Hinduism, whatnot. The other thing is I'm wondering, because as far as I understand, the Buddha was a little bit like, maybe not directly misogynistic, but misogynistic in the sense that he said some things about women that are like, I forget what it was. It was something like it's difficult for them to attain, some spiritual level or whatever, which perhaps there's some reason why that's true. I mean, I'm just in the sense of like, if the Buddha says something, is it really, good for me to swoop in and just drop in my opinion? Because with Jesus, I know a ton about Jesus. I know a ton about the Bible. I understand the context, everything else. When it comes, and Krishna is kind of similar, but Krishna, I think it's I don't know if I'm saying anything that's like controversial on something where I there's a few things probably I would differ in opinion with things that Krishna says. But then, I think like the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam do use hyperbolic language. So it's another thing where it's challenging to interpret what it means exactly. I don't feel comfortable enough even with Krishna's words to say definitively like, oh yeah, I know that I agree or disagree. I don't know what the dimensions of it are. With Jesus, I know a lot of the different interpretations and kind of the history. Of course, I don't know everything, but I know enough to feel comfortable making some kind of criticisms. The other thing is, I feel comfortable making the assertion that I don't think Jesus was trying to say, hey, I am God myself. I, in my being, contain all that is God. I don't think he was trying to say that. I think Krishna, I think it's pretty clear that I'm God, because with Jesus they had the transfiguration, and they saw Jesus in his heightened form. I think they saw him more like what he is. I think in his physical form, there was some level of veiling where, like, he looked very common or something, which I kind of interpret that maybe he was even a little bit ugly, something like that. And then when they see in the transfiguration, they see, oh, this is what he really is, and he's bright, and maybe even seeing like his higher self and stuff. Maybe they saw, something really fabulous in that moment, but according to the text, they just saw him very bright and, you know, elevated and powerful. Krishna, it's like the things that Arjuna sees in the Bhagavad Gita and the feats that Krishna does, it's very, very clear that Krishna intends to convey that he is God. That he and he is God in a very ultimate sense, you know. And I'm just reading through some of these things. I don't know what the metaphor is supposed to be. Maybe it is metaphorical, you know. Maybe it is. Who knows? Maybe it's metaphorical that he defeated the Snake King, and then the Snake King Kalia, and then Kalia's many wives came and pleaded that he wouldn't kill the demon. You know, maybe some of these things are metaphors, or maybe they happen more like on the astral plane, and that people were just aware of energetics in the astral plane enough that, like, they had some recognition of this. But I think that that's really an uncomfortable stance to take, and it doesn't ring true. Or I don't have a way to substantiate that. There's not like textual evidence that I see that it was like, yeah, that's how it was, type thing. So also the Rosicrucians talk about densification, that the world used to be more magical and now it's more mundane. I toy with that idea. I don't know if that's really true. That being said, now it's going the other way around, where it's everything's loosening, and you know, I have one friend talking about he feels like he can do pyromancy soon, like produce flames from his fingers. Maybe. I mean, I personally have the feeling that, you know, the magical knowledge that it would take for me to like lift that car over there that I'm looking at, you know. I have this feeling like I'm not far from that. That there's something that has to be let go of, or something that has to open up, and then I could essentially have the force, you know, or telekinesis or whatever. I think nobody, I don't think even really, you know, powerful yogis and stuff, but I don't know what this thing that I don't know what that barrier is. I don't know if it's the densification, if I'm sensing what I could do if it wasn't densified. Yeah, literally it is just a matter of me knowing something or not knowing something. The Inner Christos people talk about the diotic crystal grid that the Anunnaki set up, which of course I have a different opinion about Anunnaki than them, but sure, whatever. I mean, it's one thing that for a while I thought I was seeing what I thought were Anunnaki on the astral plane, and they introduced themselves that way. I think Anunnaki is a title, according to Katesh, it just meant aliens at one time. I think it also kind of has a little bit of a connotation of like the beings that are kind of moderating the game at a very mechanical level. That basically that they're the ones with the shapes making the shadows on the wall. They're the ones with the you know, like the horse guy on a stick or whatever, and that are putting that up to the light. And honestly, the funny thing is, when me and Lucia started to really gain some momentum, opposing sort of the caretakers of the system or whatever, blues came and were causing issues, and they were egg-headed blue people. So, and then I realized that what I was seeing was the Syrians, down to many details about Syrians. I was seeing blue Syrians. So I think the quote-unquote Anunnaki that are causing issues are Syrians. I think they're like white Syrians or something more often, or perhaps the white Syrians are, you know, having a higher rank than the blue Syrians something. Because the blue Syrians were coming to kind of bully us into like not messing with things. Which is funny because it seems like blue Syrians are very connected to like what is it? Hinduism and Vedic culture. And W. Solaris says this, but I see it, you know, and especially with blue people, like, okay, Krishna's blue, but also Bhima's wife was blue. His second or third wife was blue. I forget her name. So, and then also, people talk about Andromedans being blue. They're just basically just blue humans. Maybe, you know, I haven't seen them on the astral plane, but sure. Yeah, well, actually I saw them on the astral plane, but they looked like blue elves to me. I mean, I guess I did see them on the astral plane, because that's what they are. Sometimes I wonder if they're related to the Syrians. What I was sort of getting is that the Andromedans are sort of holding the blue ray light, and that the Syrians are sort of, then afterwards connecting to that. So it's like the blue Syrians are lower rank than the blue Andromedans. And are sort of led by them. Yeah. I was even wondering if they were racially sort of connected, but I don't think that anymore. I don't think so. Or I was just toying with that idea, and I never really was able to, you know, through astral projection or just snooping around on the astral plane in general, I wasn't able to see if that was right, and I think it's not. I think, you know, anyways. Which I think is an interesting tangent to go off of, you know, misogyny and old spiritual practices, because the reason I started thinking about this, not only because my own life, I kind of have a different experience of it, and just Freudian psychology, which I kind of respect. I think it's not complete, but I think it has a lot of good points that are basically accurate. I think actually Freudian psychology is more correctly and adroitly occult than Jungian psychology. I think Jungian psychology is kind of a little bit of materialistic blind over the thing, whereas Freudian stuff, Freudian is just asking questions about what is in the depths of people's desires, what is the id, what are, you know, repression, things like that. That's it. Whereas Jung is kind of, I don't know why you wouldn't just talk about the occult, but I kind of get it at the same time. So I've become a little more forgiving of Jung, but towards Jung. Anyways, so yeah, so the other thing is, like, these spiritual systems we have now were all put into place by aliens. I believe that. I don't think humans created these systems. I think religion is a very bizarre phenomenon to have happened in the world. You know, and maybe it wasn't aliens directly coming and enslaving us. Maybe it was just people were channeling and the aliens told us to do this. I think a lot of inspiration is actually receiving telepathic signals from aliens, receiving their desires for the earth. And it's not all aliens. There's also local beings that are very powerful that want things. And, you know, it's really complicated in the sense of different external beings want the same things as certain internal beings. So, you know, it's I think this is one thing I don't like, is everyone tries to, not everyone, but a lot of New Age people or comparative mythology people or whatever try to make everything the same narrative, and it's just not, you know. I don't know. Look how many stars there are. I think as many stars as there are is how many different alien species there are, or more. And the other thing is, like, this is one thing that I find really difficult is, if you read the Srimad Bhagavatam, it'll tell you that, oh yeah, there's, you know, hundreds of thousands of human species. So, but we only know of, like, what, maybe 100 on Earth. Probably less than that. So what does that mean? And not to mention that the Vedic literatures are very straightforward. That yeah, there's things that aren't humans that live elsewhere, but it's not that far away, type thing. So, I'm really like I'm not. To me, if the Vedic rote is even mildly correct on such topics, then NASA must be lying. And so as many lights are in the sky, I think is as many other places to go to. At least, right? At least. And that's the other thing is there's a little bit of a what is it? Appeal to infinity here. Appeal to appeal to infinity. If there's all these different other places, and anywhere you go, everything's varied. And if everything's varied, then if everything's infinitely varied, then there's lots of ways that things could be different. And I personally get the feeling that humanity is kind of a blank slate, and I think a lot of our patterns don't come from us at all. So I don't know. I think it's really bizarre how many different cultures are here on the Earth, and yeah. So yeah, I'm just guessing that these patriarchal systems are just one habit being left behind. Especially since a lot of cultures they were sort of wiped out. They would do kind of like a longhouse matriarchy type deal, like the Native Americans would do. So yeah, I think that's more closer to yeah, I'm gonna go with that. It's it's more closer to the base template of what humanity sort of wants to be. On the other hand, we could make the statement that maybe that is also just a different template that comes from who knows where, because if the Vedic literatures are correct, then we're just coming out of if Sri Yukteswar is correct, then we're just coming out of another set of descending and ascending Kali Yugas. Whereas over the many yugas, probably many different templates have been used and experimented with.